All right, so this is part 2 of our video that we're gonna use for key signature. Right? If you did not do part 1, make sure you watch that video first, because that's gonna allow us to do all this stuff. And then for part 2, just flip over to the back of your page, because we're gonna kind of need a new setup with some staffs and be able to draw some grand staffs. So we're gonna continue kind of where we left off. So let's draw another grand staff on the top 2 stabs of the back of the page. So line, bracket, and then we'll draw our treble clef again on the top, and then our bass clef on the bottom. Okay, now we're going to do flats first. Okay, so these are all going to be flat key signatures. So let's label this grand staff with that, flat key signatures. We're going to leave off the time signatures for these, so we're not going to use 3-4 or 4-4. We're just going to draw just the key signature. And we're going to go in order. There's a total, we can go from 0 to 7. So we're going to draw 1 flat, and then put a little break, draw 2 flats, put a little break, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7. So we'll be able to show every single key signature that could possibly exist. So for the first one, we're just gonna have 1 flat. So if you remember from earlier, our order of flats, guys, see if you remember that, draw that order at the top of your page so you can use that to help you out. So bead GCF from the previous page. If I have 1 flat in my key signature, it's always gonna be B. If I have 2 flats, it's gonna be B and E. If I have 4 flats, it's going to be the first 4 letters, B, E, A, D. If I have 6, it's going to be the first 6 letters, so B, E, A, D, G, and then C. And then if I were to have 7, I would add the F at the very, very end. So let's start with 1 flat. So we're going to draw a flat on treble clef middle line and bass clef second line. And that's just a key signature that means B flat. And then let's draw a bar line next to that. And we're going to draw some new key signatures. So we're going to draw one that has 2 flats in it. So our flats are going to be B flat and E flat. So draw the same flat you drew earlier. And then we're going to add a new flat. So the new flat's going to be E flat. We're going to use the top space in treble clef, and the third space in bass clef. You'll notice it will kind of do a zigzag pattern, so make sure that you don't draw these flats right on top of each other. One's kind of to the left and one's up and to the right. And then our flats for this part are B flat and E flat, and then going to draw another bar line to separate that. Next, we're going to do 3 flats. So we're going to draw the same 2 flats we just did. Same exact ones you drew in the previous measure. And then we're going to add 1 more flat to that. So if we're going in order, we're going B, E, and now we're drawing A. So we're going to add A to the mix, which is this note right here in treble clef, and this note right here in bass clef. And for flat key signatures, we're always going to make that diagonal pattern. So we're going to go low, high, low, high, low, high, low, high, and kind of alternate like that. So our flats here are B flat, E flat, A flat. And let's close that bar line, close that measure. And now we're going to draw 4 flats. So draw the same 3 you drew earlier. They all build on top of each other. And now we're going to add D flat to the mix. So we're going to use a higher note since we just went low, high, low. Now we're going to go high. So we're going to draw that flat right there on the 4th line in treble clef. And the very middle line, the 3rd line in bass clef. So now we have B flat, E flat, A flat, and D flat. All right, only got 3 more to go. And then we're going to go ahead and draw the same exact flats we just drew, so copy those down from the previous measure, same exact way, low, high, low, high. So your answer should look like that for treble clef. And then it should look like that for bass clef. Then we're going to add the next flat. So far we have B, E, A, and D. Now we're going to add G. So for G, we're going to label a lower one and the bottom line in bass clef. So now our flats are B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, and G flat. We'll close that measure. And the next one, since we just did 5 flats, now we're going to label 6 flats. So we're going to go B, E, A, D, G, and then C. So those first 6 right there. So copy down the one where we drew 5, the exact same ones. There's treble clef. Bass clef. Now we're going to go ahead and label the C. So we're going to draw a flat on the 3rd space in treble clef and the 2nd space in bass clef. You can pause the video at any point if you're getting a little bit behind. I know it takes a while to draw some of these in, so pause the video whenever you need to catch up. And we'll label our flats here. B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, and then our last one that we drew, we have the C flat. We'll close that measure. And then the last one, we're going to label all 7 flats. So if we had a key signature where every single note was flat, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, every single note flat, we're going to go ahead and label all those flats in there. This is the most, maybe the most complicated one you're going to see, and you will not see this for a while. This is actually, I don't think I ever saw this key signature until I was in high school, where every single note is flat. So let's copy down those 6. The treble clef, and then bass clef. And then the last flat we're going to label for this one is going to be F. So in treble clef, we're going to label the bottom space. So if you count, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 flats in the key signature for this one. And then in bass clef, we'll add our 7th flat right below the bottom line. So you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 for that one. And this one, we're going to go ahead and write bead GCF with a flat next to each note. So we have B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, C flat, and F flat. So that's all the possibilities for what it might look like with a flat key signature. Now we don't know how to play all those notes yet, okay, but we'll start adding more. A lot of you already know how to play a B flat. Some of you already know how to play a B flat and an E flat. Some of you know how to play the 3. We'll start learning new flats as we progress towards the year, towards the end of the year. And these will be key signatures that we start to see on some of our scales and that we start to see in some of our music. Now you can imagine when we didn't have paper that looked, as easy and as nice as this, where a printer already prints the lines for you, and we didn't have mechanical pencils or wooden pencils. People had to draw with like a feather and dip it in ink. You can imagine how tedious that process was. So this is a shorthand that they came up with, where they're going to label the flats at the beginning of the music to kind of say, all right, instead of drawing a flat next to every single note, I'm going to make it a little bit easier on myself and on the musician playing it. We're going to draw this at the beginning, and it'll last for the whole thing. So let's go ahead and do kind of the same thing we just did with flat key signatures. We're going to label our sharp key signatures. So sharp key signatures. And then let's label the order of sharps. We'll put that right here. Remember, the order of flats was bead, GCF. So the order of sharps is backwards of that one. So if I take F would be first, and then C, and then just read that backwards. So B should be the last one. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw my grand staff, the line, the bracket, and the clefs. Just like we did on all the previous examples. Make sure your pencil is still sharp, because we're going to draw some sharps in there. Right, and then we're going to start with one sharp. So if I have one sharp in my key signature, I'm going to label the note as F sharp. So the sharp that I'm going to use, the line I'm going to use in treble clef, is going to be the top line. So draw your sharp symbol right on the top line in treble clef. And then on the fourth line in bass clef. Right, and then label that as F sharp in the middle if you didn't do so already. And then we're going to label 2 sharp, so copy the same one down. And we're also going to label a C, so we're going to use this C in treble clef. And we're going to use this C in bass clef. And let's label those in the middle, F sharp, C sharp. And if you look at our list, we're still going in the right order. So we have the correct ones so far. Bar line. And now we're going to label 3 sharps. So F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. For the G sharp, we're going to use on top of the line in treble clef. So on the top of the top line, sitting right on top of it. And then in bass clef, we'll draw the same ones we drew earlier. And then we use the top space for the last one. So now we have F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. And bar line to close that one out. Now we'll go ahead and add the fourth one. This is very tedious. Same ones we drew earlier. Be careful about where you put the last one. So we add the fourth one. We're going to add in D sharp. So in treble clef, I'm going to use that line, the fourth line up. In bass clef, I'm going to draw a sharp on the center line. So your note so far should be F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and then the one we just drew was D sharp. So we're at 4. And go ahead and label the same sharps you did earlier on the group of 4. Okay, so 4 sharps. We'll add the 5th one. So if we're going in order, we're going to go F, C, G, D. Now we're going to add in A. When we get to A, we kind of break the pattern. So we were kind of going high, low, and now we're going to actually break the pattern and go low. So we're going to put the sharp on the 2nd space in treble clef. And in bass clef, we're going to put the sharp on the bottom space. The reason we break the pattern here is because I already had G for treble clef right on top of the staff. I can't really label a higher one. I can't really tell if I draw this. I can't really tell what note that goes with. I can only tell if I draw it right on top of the staff like this, that this note would be sharp. But if I wanted that note to be sharp, we don't really have a way of labeling that in the key signature. So that's why we have to go down to the lower A. So now label our sharp. So this one we have F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, and then the last one we labeled was A sharp. And close that measure. And then we have 2 more. So let's go ahead and label the draw the same ones we just drew. So the 5 that we just drew. And the A goes low. Same thing in bass clef. And then we're going to add one more to the mix. So we just finished with A sharp, so now we're going to add in E sharp. We're going to go up to a higher pitch for this one. So it'll be right here, top space in treble clef. And in bass clef, we'll go to the 3rd space. So now we have F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, and we just finished with E sharp. And now I'm kind of out of room for this staff, so I'm going to move to the next one. I'm going to redraw the grand staff again. If you still have room, you can continue on that staff. If not, you're going to want to go to a new staff. So go ahead and label your grand staff with your treble bass clef in the bracket. And then let's label our last one. So this one's going to have 7 sharps in the key signature. So might have to look back a little farther, but go ahead and copy down the one where we had 6. Going to copy down those same exact ones on the new staff or in the new measure. And none of the sharps should look the same at this point. We should be able to tell if they're on a line or a space. They may be really close together, but we got to be able to tell if it's on a line or a space as we do this. All right, and then we'll label our last one. So our last sharp from earlier was the B that comes last for the order of sharps. So for treble clef, our B is going to go right here in the center. And then for bass clef, we're going to use the 2nd line. And then we're going to go ahead and label our sharps next to this. So F sharp, C sharp, G sharp. You can look at the list up here to help you out. D sharp comes next. A sharp. E sharp. And last one, B sharp. Cool. If you were able to make it this far, that's really, really impressive. That's, like I said, that's not an easy thing to draw, and it's very tedious to draw music like this. We're really lucky that we have all this technology now where we can draw music on our computers and devices. Yeah, but this is what they had to do in like the 1700s and before that, even in the 1800s, draw it by hand with like a quill and dipping it in ink for every single stroke that they made with a pen. So really impressive that you can do this. Nice job, guys.